The chandelier-lit dining room had been designed to impress: Italian marble floors, walls washed in soft gold light, a table long enough to seat 12 executives comfortably, but none of that mattered the moment 7-year-old Oliver Hart's fork slipped from his hand and clattered against fine china, the sharp sound slicing through polite laughter and muted business talk, and before anyone could react, his lower lip began to tremble, his eyes filling the way clouds do before a storm, until tears spilled freely and his small body folded inward as if he were trying to disappear into the oversized chair, shocking everyone present because this was the son of Daniel Hart, the unshakable CEO who negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, yet here was his child unraveling in front of donors, investors, and carefully curated guests, and Daniel felt panic bloom in his chest as he pushed back his chair and knelt beside Oliver, whispering his name, asking what was wrong, promising dessert, a new game, anything, but Oliver couldn't explain it in words because the pain wasn't about food or fatigue, it was about the empty space where his mother used to sit, the way dinner used to sound like laughter instead of silverware, the way silence followed him like a shadow through the vast mansion, and as guests shifted uncomfortably, some pretending to check their phones, others offering sympathetic smiles, Daniel realized with a hollow ache that he had built an empire yet failed to protect his son from loneliness, and that helplessness hurt more than any loss he'd ever faced in business, until a small chair scraped softly against the floor and Lily, a little girl no one had paid much attention to all evening, climbed down and walked over, her dress slightly wrinkled, her hair tied unevenly as if someone had rushed that morning, and she didn't look at the adults or seem intimidated by the wealth or tension. She simply leaned toward Oliver, close enough that only he, and Daniel, could hear her, and whispered with gentle confidence, "He only needs a sister," and the words were so simple, so unexpected, that Oliver's sobs hitched, his breathing slowing as he looked up at her through watery lashes, as if she had named something he'd been carrying silently for months, and in that fragile pause, the room seemed to hold its breath, Daniel included, because something ancient and true had just been spoken aloud. Part 2. Daniel felt the impact of that whisper settle deep in his chest long after the dinner plates were quietly cleared and guests offered polite excuses to leave early, because as Lily took Oliver's hand and began telling him, without being asked, how sisters share secrets, scare away bad dreams, and sit beside you when the world feels too big, Oliver leaned into her words like a lifeline, nodding, asking questions, smiling for the first time that evening, and Daniel watched them from across the table with a strange mix of grief and clarity, realizing that despite the private tutors, the security teams, the sprawling rooms filled with toys no child ever touched twice, his son's deepest hunger had gone unnoticed, and later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep in the guest room and Oliver lay curled under his blankets clutching a stuffed bear his mother once bought him, Daniel sat alone in his study staring at a framed photo of his late wife, hearing her voice in his memory telling him that children grow best with someone to grow beside. And in the weeks that followed, he found himself doing something entirely new, slowing down, listening, opening his home to laughter and mess and small, imperfect moments, until Lily became a constant presence, not as a guest but as family, and Oliver changed in ways no therapist or consultant could have predicted, becoming lighter, braver, learning to share his sadness instead of hiding it, and one evening months later, as Daniel passed the dining room and heard two children giggling over spilled juice and whispered jokes, he stopped in the doorway, heart full, understanding at last that success had never been about numbers or power, but about choosing love even when it frightened you, because sometimes the smallest voice tells you the biggest truth, and sometimes all a broken heart needs to heal is someone close enough to whisper, "You don't have to face this alone."